What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sound Off Sports' big-time show this week. Juan Soto signs the largest contract in professional sports history. Was it worth it? Plus, we're going to be talking about Barry Odom. He's on the move. He's left UNLV. He's now the new head coach at Purdue. Did he make the right choice? So much to break down. SOS starts right now.
Make some noise. This is Sound Off Sports, sponsored by Sam and Ash.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sound Off Sports. I'm Mike Davis, joined by my main man, producer James Edward Barrickman IV, sporting the Bama gear.
Roll Tide, baby. Roll Tide.
You're a Mountaineer.
I know. Shout out to my little sister. Shout out Anna Banana. She's a senior at Alabama.
Anna Banana.
Yep.
Roll Tide.
Even though I'm glad SMU got in the playoff over Alabama.
Yeah.
This isn't like a, I'm not making a statement with this. It's
Bama
just
got
other
out.
than a fashion statement. You know?
Hurricanes didn't get in. We're feeling it over here. I'm gonna teach you about Deacon Blues, Steely Dan.
Okay.
Call me Deacon Blues. They mentioned they call Alabama the Crimson Tide.
Okay.
Call me Deacon Blues. It's a song.
Oh, got it. Okay.
I'll teach you about that a little later on. But guys, for so much to get to, a big time week when it comes to sports. Listen, Juan Soto signs the largest contract in professional sports history. A 15-year deal, leaving New York Yankees to stay in New York and play for the Mets for $765 million. It's the largest ever in professional sports history. Just to give you an idea, the career earnings for LeBron James, $531 million. For Tom Brady, $332 million. So 15 years for Juan Soto. It's a massive deal. James, when you saw this, what was the first thing that crossed your mind?
The first thing that crossed my mind as a fan of a small market Pittsburgh Pirates team is this is bad for baseball as a whole. And I don't think anybody cares other than, I'm not sure the MLB cares or if anybody cares outside of fans of small market teams. And I was going to wait to get to this, but $765 million over the course of 15 years for Juan Soto. That's more than the Pittsburgh Pirates have allocated to their entire payroll combined over the last 10 years. Same can be said for the Oakland A's. So Juan Soto is worth more than the entire Pittsburgh Pirates payroll over the last 10 years. For the last 10 years. And I think when you have that kind of competitive imbalance in your sport, that's not a good thing. But the MLB is all about trying to get these big market teams front and center. So I don't know if they care. But as a fan of a small market team, I don't like it. I've always been very much pro salary cap or salary floor in the MLB.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. I can't disagree at all. It's fascinating. But here's what's so weird. You know, yes, the competitive imbalance, I don't love that. It's not a great look. I don't think it provides good parity. Yes, they want these big, organizations in these big time markets to be front and center when it comes playoff time and all that. But is it actually worth it? Are the Mets going to be that much better by having this guy, allocating that much money to one player where you're not spreading it around? It's still a fascinating, question to me because, yes, does one guy put you over the top in baseball? It's not like basketball. It's not like a quarterback in football. I mean, it's one dude on this New York Mets team. So the evaluation of a guy like this, it's so fascinating that $765 million can go to one guy. Is that going to make enough of a difference to put them over the top?
In baseball, like you said, it's different. It's not the quarterback in football. It's not, basketball where somebody is a great two-way player and he's on the floor for all game long. In baseball, you can pitch around one guy. You're seeing him one time every nine batters. And and Juan Soto is not that guy in the field. So, I mean, I think it will be, rather, let me rephrase this. I don't think the Mets will regret giving him this kind of money, assuming they get a pennant or two out of this. But when you look at it, they just lost to the wagon that is the LA Dodgers in the NLCS this year. So if you're going to go all in this arms race with them, then, I mean, I guess it is a move that you're going to have to make. But if you're going to go and give Juan Soto, who, again, is 26, I guess you got to go get Pete Alonso now too, right? He's a free agent, still waiting to be signed.
It's remarkable the amount of money that's getting thrown around. Let's hear what some people at home have to say, because what we did ask everybody at home was, will the Mets regret allocating $765 million to one player?
Juan Soto deserves $50 million a year, but 15 years is way too much time. You're going to be paying this guy till he's like near 40 years old so much money, and you're fronting all the money, unlike the Ohtani deal in LA. Is he a little overpaid? Yes. Is he sufficiently paid? Yes. Did the Mets make a mistake? No. The Mets want to be the top dogs in New York, and they want to be the top dogs in the National League East, and they can be the top dogs in the National League East. They beat the NL East champs in the playoffs last year.
The guy is, 26, I believe. Signed a 15-year contract for $765. Okay. He did absolutely nothing to really help the Yankees get over the edge or over the hump. And the Mets go ahead and spend $760 million or $65 million on the guy. Like, I mean, he's a bat. His defense isn't that good, but I mean, come on, we have to start making these contracts make sense. The guy batted for 288, I believe, last year at 41 home runs. Not too bad of a year, but I just don't see him being worth $765 million. He's already tricked the Padres and the Nationals.
$750 million. Billion with a B. What is Major League Baseball coming to? There is no way that Soto is going to be worth even half of the allocated amount at the end of the contract. All you have to think about is what happened to a lot of these guys when they got to the back half of their contract. Even Aaron Judge is getting old, and what the Yankees paid him, they're going to be eating that in a year or two. Baseball has gotten to the point where I've lost the plot. Yes, the Mets are going to regret this. They still are, eating other contracts there. It just makes a fan shake his head and say, where is this game going?
All right, welcome back to Sound Off Sports. We are joined now by Evan Wasch, the NBA Executive Vice President of Basketball Strategy and Analytics. Evan, thanks so much for joining us. All right, so listen, I'm a big fan of the NBA. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be Allen Iverson and Kobe Bryant before I wanted to do anything else with my life. But let's talk about this, because over the past few years, we have, the in-season tournament from last year. And now we have the NBA Cup, which is going to have the semifinals and finals here in Las Vegas. And we're going to get to that a little later on in this interview. But let me start with this synergy we're seeing between the NBA and Las Vegas. How real is this love affair?
I think it's fantastic for basketball. I think obviously we've had for over 20 years now NBA Summer League in Las Vegas and a real summer celebration of the future of the NBA. We've of course had USA Basketball training camp there over a number of cycles, so that the best players on the planet get to perform in the market. And of course you mentioned G League Ignite and their presence in the market the last couple of years, and now the NBA Cup is really just the next step. And we think what's unique about the NBA Cup is it's the first time that we're seeing competition of consequence, meaning the best teams in the NBA competing at the highest level for a trophy that sort of defines their early season performance. And that's not something we've historically had with USA Basketball or Summer League or Ignite. So we think it's just another unique property to bring basketball to Las Vegas. And I think it just extends that longstanding partnership we've had with the city.
Yeah, and this trend is fascinating because you're a guy who's been a part of the league now for 14 years. I'm old enough to remember when the All-Star game, the NBA All-Star game, came to Las Vegas, which was a big step in that direction. Former Commissioner David Stern, it was a notorious notion that he did not love Las Vegas and any cohesiveness between the NBA and Las Vegas. But now Adam Silver has made a lot of steps in this new direction. You're a guy, you've been a part of the NBA for 14 years and counting. You started as an intern, so you know really what this growth has transformed and looked like. And amongst Vegas locals here, there's so much hope that we're going to have potentially an NBA franchise coming up the pike. So this is an exciting time for Las Vegas locals. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself personally, what you've seen with this growth and this relationship, and what do you think that means for Las Vegas locals?
Yeah, so the All-Star game predates me. I've certainly been to the last 14, but was not at the Las Vegas one. But I just, again, I think it's a fantastic market for sports. You're seeing that with teams in other leagues, starting to call Vegas home. Of course, we have a WNBA team, very successful in Las Vegas. And of course, it's something that's on the table as we look towards future expansion. And Adam's talked about our priorities as we got through our CBA negotiations, as we completed our media deal, that we would turn our attention to potential expansion. And certainly Vegas would be one of the places that we could look at. But I just think expansion team or not, the ability, again, to bring our game, our competition, our players to Las Vegas and put on the shows that we can put on for that market, both the local fans and the global fans visiting, is just a really special opportunity for us at the NBA.
Of course, last year I was doing a lot of the on-the-ground coverage for the NBA in-season tournament, but now we've transitioned to a new name this year. It's going to be called the Emirates NBA Cup. Let's talk, before we get into the details, just from a naming perspective, why NBA Cup, what's the change there, and why so?
Yeah, so the reason we ended up with the in-season tournament last year was we felt like when we were creating something new, there was actually a lot of value in the literalism of calling it the in-season tournament, because that's exactly what it was, a tournament in the season. And it wasn't the catchiest name. It wasn't meant to sort of build marketing cachet, but just to let fans, media, players, teams know exactly what we were doing, right? We were adding the secondary championship that would sit within the season. It was incredibly successful. It drove outsized fan interest. The performance of teams and players in those games was incredibly intense and competitive. We saw great viewership, social engagement. All of the metrics we track really went off the charts for those early season games, and it was just a great success story in year one. And not surprisingly, that attracted a lot of interest in the partnership marketplace. And so we'd already been having conversations with Emirates about a broad global partnership with the NBA, and it sort of became clear to them and us following that first iteration of the Cup that this would be a great opportunity as a real anchor property for that global partnership. And so we were thrilled to bring them on board. And of course, as part of that, it made sense for us to go through a rebranding. And Emirates has familiarity with Cup sponsorships around the world, including the Emirates FA Cup in the UK. And so we thought it made sense, along with that, to rebrand now to the much more pithy Emirates NBA Cup, which is what we'll use going forward, but obviously hope to see that same intensity independent of the name, and looking forward to the future growth as well.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating how the NBA is growing. This growth that we're witnessing, it's fascinating how you guys are challenging a lot of the norms of old. We're, old NBA fans like me, we're accustomed to, the playoffs, the Larry O'Brien trophy for the team that wins the NBA finals, and a lot of these, old traditional things that we love. It's all good stuff. But now there's the implementation of so many new concepts, and the NBA Cup is one of them. Maybe perhaps you could shed a little light and tell us, from behind the scenes, the conversations that were happening, how did this even come about, the NBA Cup? How did we start moving in this direction where these conversations that were happening in back rooms have now come into existence, and we're seeing and interacting with brand new elements and ideas that the NBA is presenting to us?
Yeah, so if you look back, over the past 10 years, as you alluded to, this has been part of the conversation. I think the first concepts of in-season, or what was then called mid-season tournaments, really date back to 2009, 2010 at the league. There were media members talking about the possibility. And the reality is this wasn't a new concept within sport. It may be new among the U.S. major professional sports leagues. But if you look at the global sports landscape, whether it's international soccer, international basketball, even individual sports here in the U.S., tennis, golf, racing, fighting, college basketball, all of these sports properties have multiple trophies, multiple championships that teams, players, or athletes can chase in any given calendar year. So the notion of playing a long regular season, a long playoffs, and awarding one trophy at the end of it is actually a pretty unique notion to the American Big Four sports. And we thought that that presented an opportunity to really tap into what we had seen as a great success story elsewhere in the world when it comes to sports and say, you know what, there doesn't just have to be one trophy to win each year for one team. There can be multiple championships. There can be multiple opportunities for players, teams to put their stamp on the season, to build their legacy, and ultimately to create narrative around, what of course is a fairly long season. And so that was the original concept.
All right, Evan, thank you so much again. One of the greatest sports business minds we have on the face of the earth. We thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Guys, NBA Cup. There's this synergy between Las Vegas and the NBA. You got to love it. We're still hoping for that NBA franchise down the road. But right now, you can see the NBA Cup right here at T-Mobile Arena, Saturday, December 14th. And yes, Tuesday, the championship of the NBA Cup is going to be going down at T-Mobile Arena, Tuesday, December 17th. We'll be right back on SOS right after a short break. All right, welcome back to Sound Off Sports. Mike Davis here with James Edward Barrickman IV. James, big week locally here in Las Vegas. Head coach Barry Odom has left the UNLV football Rebels and has accepted a coaching job at Purdue. Now, timeline of this is fascinating.
Yeah.
They lose the Mountain West Championship game against Boise State 21-7
on a Friday.
Last Friday.
Right.
By Sunday morning, breaking news, this guy is now going to be coaching the Boilermakers, going to Purdue. By Tuesday, he's doing the introductory press conference and all that good stuff.
He's long gone.
To me,
he was in West Lafayette Sunday evening.
I know West Lafayette. I almost took a job in West Lafayette. A very beautiful place. Indiana, Midwest. Gotta love the Midwest. But this is where my mind's at. If I'm a UNLV football Rebel fan, if I'm a player, if I'm a part of this program, my concern is that this guy had to be considering taking up mental brain capacity to be auditioning, interviewing for other jobs, all in the meanwhile trying to prep his team to win the Mountain West Championship for the opportunity to get into the first ever college football playoff, which is going to have 12 teams. So you're telling me this guy had to compartmentalize and balance both of these things at once. I'm just going to say it, James. I don't like it.
I don't think anybody likes it, but that's just the world we live in. This is how it works in college football.
I don't want to live in this world. Why can't we live in a world where Purdue and that athletic director's thinking, you know what, do your thing. We want to evaluate coaches. We want to be on a coaching hiring spree with guys who are focused and fixated on what's important. And then there's time to, make room for these types of things after the fact. I mean, this is such it's a hurtful thing, I think. If you're a member of this program, if you're a player in this program, I think Chuck Wagon, Charles Williams, he came on Cincinnati Beat. He said something fascinating. He said these young guys, they're more loyal to the coach than they are to the program. A lot of these kids when they're recruited out of high school. So now you have a coach who's just up and leaving for the next best thing, and I get it. He deserves it. He turned around this franchise, this program in 2 years. I mean, it's a remarkable thing that he did and he accomplished, and he should go out there and get his $7 million a year, and that's a perfect thing. But can't that come after you're about to make history?
Purdue doesn't have that kind of time to waste. Let's say they waited to even get interviews started. I don't know how long that process takes. it's probably, I don't know, I assume it's like a 2-3 week process where they're doing interviews. Purdue doesn't care about UNLV football. What UNLV has going on has no bearing on Purdue football and that athletic department there. So Purdue, to them, what matters is getting this next head coach in there as quickly as possible and rebounding for next year. And so when you're Barry Odom and you're a guy who's looking to take the next step in your coaching career, it's either, you focus on UNLV or you miss out on potentially, the next step of your career.
What about tampering? What about something like, couldn't there be regulations or formalities constructed by the NCAA to say, listen, like between this period of time, there's no coaching, conversations going on. There's no hiring conversations happening until after a certain period of time. Because I think that would just make, I think that would be a great thing for the sport. But beyond that, thank God for NIL, because now for this is when, to me, NIL is something that's super important, because you feel bad for some of these kids who, if they believed in this guy, they believed in that program, they signed because they wanted to play for Coach Barry Odom, they should have the ability to do some maneuvering themselves.
100%. And this is, one of those things where the transfer portal is a good thing. This is one of the good things about the transfer portal, is many issues as it has. This is one of the good things. So, I'm with you where you're saying, can there be parameters? Can there be, a timeline for the hiring process?
As we're wrapping up this block, let's get one more response from the good people at home. Did Coach Odom make a mistake by leaving UNLV football?
This is Dan Murray on Facebook. He says, loyalty goes both ways. You want a top 25 coach, then pay him like one.
To listen to the complete show, go to our YouTube page, Silver State Sports and Entertainment.